Chaz. The Emperor Chaz.
Yo, 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 yo.
Okay.
That's cool.
So I guess to start off, could you guys tell me like where you're all from?
I was born in Pittsburgh, and then I moved to like the Cleveland area, Strongsville, when I was like 3. So
Okay.
then I moved down to Columbus to go to school.
I was born and raised in Clintonville, in Columbus, Ohio.
I gotta sneeze. Okay, alright, we're good. We good. I was born in
good.
Columbus, Ohio, and I moved to DC for school for a little bit, and then I moved back here about 4 years ago.
Okay.
I was also born in Columbus, Ohio, and I've just kind of lived around various Ohio suburbs, never really left. But then for school, I've been living in New York and kind of commuting back and forth.
Okay.
I was born in New Jersey, but both my parents are from Ohio, and then we moved to Japan, and
Oh, wow.
I lived in Japan from when I was 5 to 14.
So could you guys describe the how the Emperor Chaz came together as a band?
So, I met Jared probably over 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
I met Jared. He had just moved back in town from DC. He hadn't had his drums in 4 years. But he mentioned, I rapped for him and stuff, and we got along. We instantly got along, and we realized we were gonna do music together. We didn't know, we wanted to find people. We didn't know, how it would come together.
Yeah.
At the time, I was rapping, but I also played bass. So since we didn't have any other musicians, I hopped on bass, and me and him just kind of played bass and drums for like a year and a half, just messing around and like just doing some like weird prog shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he actually he would take hip hop, because I actually didn't listen to a lot of hip hop before I met him.
Yeah.
He basically got me into it, and he would show me these hip hop songs and play it on bass, and he would give me feedback on how my pocket was, how well I
Okay.
was playing to those hip hop songs, and he basically taught me how to play to that genre. And so we would just jam to that, and yeah, he gave me master classes on the stuff. He would go give me the history of hip hop and all that stuff. So
and it was a series of finding people and jamming with them and trying to find who had the right vibe. Took a long time, but we finally found these boys, Adam and Kevin.
So
Yeah.
Adam and I had an anthropology class together. We had the same phone background.
Yeah, the hiatus coyote.
Hiatus
Yeah, the choose your
coyote,
weapon, right?
Yeah,
Choose
choose
your
your
weapon.
weapon. And so I was like, so what's your major? He's like, jazz guitar, and I'm like, well, shit, let's jam. And so I ended up going to his house. I brought a mini kit with me.
Yeah, you
And
drove
we
out to
jammed.
Granville.
I drove
went
out
to Granville? I
yeah.
didn't
And immediately, he was just playing some chords, and he showed me some of his productions. He had his rapper friend June there, and we got along, and we really clicked musically, I think. So, and then we had a singer, a friend of mine from high school. He worked with
Yeah.
Kevin at Short North.
Yeah, so I work at a
Yeah.
bar in the Short North area of Columbus, and so there was a guy that was working there as a server bartender who was currently singing for these guys, and so the same band that was on their phone background, Hiatus, he was asking me what music I was into. He's like, oh, Hiatus, I name dropped them. He's like, oh shit, do you play instruments? So I told him I played keys. He's like, oh, I play with these guys. You should come through jam with us. So that's how I got in. So a huge half of the band basically is just because Hiatus is a thing,
Brought all you guys
Me
together.
too.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and then so you got into music because of Hiatus.
So once these guys got in the mix, these guys big theory guys, I actually found myself out of my league as a bass player, and I was like, well, shit, what am I gonna do? And I was like, oh, well, I'll hop back on the microphone. And a month later, we had our first show.
Oh, wow.
We got some songs together and played our first show, Rehab Tavern.
Yeah.
And it was
cool,
history from there.
Because our dream from the beginning was to make a hip hop band.
Yeah, I wanted
Yeah.
Jared to be my Questlove,
I wanted him to be whatever rapper you can think of.
We just had to get there, We had to
And so then we got Julian in a little bit after that first show because he knew Adam from they went to high school together.
Yeah,
in
Granville, where they had like jammed.
Yeah.
We had done like a little bit of, like just weird stuff on and off beforehand because we went to high school together and we were in a bunch of music things in high school together. And so he was like, "You should come out to Columbus and jam with these guys." So I brought a song that I had like just written. It's like hard to believe that was how long?
One track,
2 years
yeah,
ago?
that would have been 2 years ago, yeah.
And we
Yeah,
just
pretty
like
much.
I showed Kevin the chords for it, and he just picked it up immediately, and we played the song. Like by the end of the day, we had the whole song done.
It was an instant vibe.
Wow.
We knew,
Yeah.
we knew Julian was gonna
Everything
be.
just kind of clicked.
yeah.
Yeah, because he came with the progression, so we like messed around with it a little bit and like fleshed it out into a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is usually how like most of our songs go. Is like someone will come in with something like, oh, like I have this like little idea, and then like, oh, like that's dope. Like let's take this way, and like this thing can do this.
Yeah.
Then like suddenly it's like a whole like format.
It was
Everyone brings
nice,
their own
'cause-
thing to the table, like, and it's a very collaborative process. You know, we're all.
Yeah.
We each have our own different influences, which is
But we all also like had similar like really similar interests going into it musically. Like we all were into Hiatus Coyote, and then we were into the more neo soul beats. And Marty got me more into hip hop stuff too. And now that I'm like hyping with him, it's
That was like his
fun
hype
time.
man. Yeah.
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 Could you guys like unpack the creative process a little bit?
Someone will
Yeah.
start with something, usually a little blip, and it's literally been I think any of us. It's like everyone has, at some point has come in with like either like a guitar riff or like a vocal line or like bars or a drum beat, and will like play it for us. And half the time too is like our general like process of just jamming. We'll just play stuff together, and so usually like that'll turn into something. Or like if it's a more like let's write something, then yeah, someone brings something up, and then like we'll just each kind of like contribute a new thing to stuff.
Right.
There have been times where like I would just like lay down like a really messed up beat, just like as Dilla as possible, and then he would like layer something on it and make it into the song, and then Kevin and
Yeah.
Marty.
It first started out
Just
like
whatever
when we booked the show and we're like, shit, we
Oh,
better get some
yeah.
songs together.
He just crank shit out. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I would
we
just
need songs.
I had a bunch of writtens and I would just throw them out on different stuff they were doing, and sometimes it
Okay.
would click. Sometimes it would start with the jam of theirs, and I would try and find the right bars for it. Sometimes they would make a jam. They would make music around a verse or something. But that came together really quickly because I had all these verses ready to go. So we just started cranking them out like real quick.
Yeah. It's like Four Rings is. I always think that's really interesting.
Very first song we did.
Very first,
Oh, really?
first song ever. Is that was the first time I ever played with these guys. We were just kind of like messing around. And I was like kind of shy because like I just met these guys, so I was like nervous and stuff. And so like they were like, Adam, I think asked me like, "What have you been working on?" And so that beat, like dun, 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 was like initially I wrote that as like this weird, corny like police caper kind of like old like black and white movie, and it was gonna be like a with a drum beat. But then Jared threw that like hip hop beat that's on there now, and it completely just turned into what it was.
And he texted me something on the phone. He
Yeah.
texted me a little video. Can you rap over this?
Yeah.
And then I just started thinking of verses, and we put it together, and we're like, shit, we
Yeah.
got our first song. Let's get it.
So like everyone's like contribution to something like makes it better than what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Which is
it's
what's
really
really
fun.
cool. Yeah.
I think the nice part about having people that all enjoy jamming too is like that's the most organic way to like come up with something, and it like just opens you up to like so many different influences. Like Adam one time had this guitar tuned to like an octatonic scale. And it
Oh,
was just like really
yeah.
weird intervals. So I picked it up and I was like, what is up with this guitar? And so I just started playing it, and I ended up writing out like an entire song that we ended up using.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like things like that, just like through osmosis. I think we all influence
And the
each
fact
other.
that we're so familiar with each other, we're so comfortable with each other now, and we know how we gel in when we're playing music.
Yeah.
And the process is just continually be sharper and sharper.
Yeah. Because it's nice. Because no one's afraid to like say like, oh, like that doesn't sound good. You know. Like we've gotten to that point, which is really good and then
Yeah.
healthy. You
Yeah.
know, to like kind of like hone each other. You know, and like sharpen.
It's a
our
testament. Like that we've been together for this long and had no problems. And I think that's because we don't really consider nobody is like a front man. It's like
Yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
towards the same goal. You know, it's like
Yeah.
nobody's the one guy that's making the songs.
Yeah.